Hi everyone, I'm here with Dr. Matt Bateman, VP of Content from Higher Ground Education, and today I'm very excited to interview him. So hi Matt.
Hi, how are you?
So tell us a little bit about your role at Higher Ground.
So I am the Vice President of Content, which means a lot of different things. So I have my hands on all of the content across the company, including programmatic content, curricular content, messaging for the organization, a lot of writing, a lot of website copy, all of that stuff kind of goes through and is managed by me.
Okay, that's wonderful. So the mission of Higher Ground is to modernize and mainstream the movement of Montessori. And what drew you into the mission, and what does that really mean to you?
Wow, yeah, that's a really good question. So the initial thing that drew me to Montessori was seeing a Montessori classroom. The first Montessori classroom that I saw, I thought it was an elementary classroom, and I thought that the students were really incredible critical thinkers. I had a lot of experience with college students. A lot of the things that I wanted to achieve for college students, I thought that these elementary students were already achieving in terms of their grasp of their ability to question what the teacher was presenting them with at a pretty fundamental level. So it was the impact of Montessori at first. And then the more I got into it, the more I realized just how much intellectual depth there is to the Montessori system. Montessori is, she's a little bit outside of the mainstream in academia, which is where I come from, so I didn't know that much about her. And the more I read about her, the more I was like, wow, this is a really powerful thinker. And that appealed to me a great deal.
That sounds amazing. So you've been in many, many different roles prior to Higher Ground, and you were a professor, and you had so much experience in education in different areas. How do you think your previous roles and responsibilities influenced your work at Higher Ground?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I am trained as a philosopher, a historian of philosophy, so an intellectual historian. I also have done quite a bit in psychology and neuroscience and cognitive science. All of my academic work and my PhD work and my professorship tied all these things together. I did a lot of work in history and science, and I think it really has helped me. So Montessori is an intellectual, and it's an intellectual movement, and being able to contextualize her historically, being able to understand intellectual issues in education at a deep level, being able to engage in arguments confidently, being able to write, being able to teach. I had a lot of experience teaching college students, and that helps with training, it helps with communication. I actually feel like my skills are pretty well used here. I feel pretty stretched.
That's amazing. You came from, the academia background, and you worked with adults, and now you have to, I believe you have to go to those needle classes and toddler classes and also train the teachers there. That's just fabulous. So what initiatives are your team currently working on? And in what ways are you guys helping to modernize Montessori?
So many, but I'm just going to pick a few. Okay. So one of the ones that I'm most excited about is our high school initiative. So we are opening our first high school ever in the Bay Area in the fall. It's going to be in a beautiful building right in downtown San Francisco. It has an amazing Montessori-inspired program. We have an amazing team there leading it up, and so I'm helping develop the program. I'm connecting with other people doing adolescent work in the Montessori movement. I'm really thinking about what does it mean to be a kind of child-centered, knowledge-centered, high-structure, high-autonomy approach in high school. What does that look like? And there's a lot of work and a lot of thinking to be done, so I think that that's really exciting. So that's one. The second is I am working a lot on our training efforts. So we have really turned up the dial on our attention in supporting teachers, supporting leaders, figuring out what kinds of training and professional development they need to really succeed in the classroom. And I've actually gotten to do more teaching, kind of getting back to my professor roots. So I've been teaching some theory courses, some history courses, really on the intellectual underpinnings and foundations of Montessori, but delivered in a way that I think is actually really going to help the teachers in the classroom.
Sounds very interesting, exciting. Congratulations. Okay, I have a fun one for you. Okay. So now this one. I need you to complete a sentence, okay? To me, Montessori is?
To me, Montessori is a figure, one of the great intellectual figures in the pantheon of Enlightenment thinkers.
Wow, it's very deep. Amazing.
I think that she's really underappreciated. Not just within education, but I think that she's somebody that anybody who's interested in the history of ideas, who's interested in Enlightenment thinking, who's interested in thinking about child development and the history of psychology should really be looking at her. She's had a lot of influence. She really kind of fits into a certain continuity of thinkers in that pattern, and I think she's underappreciated.
Okay, now our last question today is, so in your opinion, how do you think Montessori will change the world?
That's a big question. So take self-driving cars. All right, so everybody knows that self-driving cars are coming, and everybody knows that it's going to change things. And then there's different layers of how people imagine that. So first, everybody imagines, oh, I don't have to like sit in my car, and I can do stuff on my morning commute. And then there's another layer where it's like, wait, if I can just get in a car and go everywhere, like maybe I can live an hour outside of town, and like I don't have to live in the suburbs anymore. I can live out in a rural area, and all of a sudden cities are reorganizing, and then logistics and transportation are reorganizing, and it kind of leads to massive disruptive changes. Montessori, if it really takes hold, imagine that times 100. Like, we actually just don't know. It's like introducing a new element into the world akin to the scientific revolution or the US Constitution or a political system of liberty, like really getting education right, starting from birth, going all the way to adulthood in a way that really respects development, that really scales, that really makes individuals strong, that leads them to have flourishing lives, that makes a substantial impact. I think we have no idea what that world is going to look like. It's going to be a completely different world. What kinds of social interactions, what kinds of norms, what kinds of agreements and arrangements, what kinds of achievements will emerge. Montessori herself was big on, she lived through 2 world wars, a depression. She thought that education was a really valuable tool for achieving peace. And I agree with that, but that's a low bar. Like, I mean, achieving peace, and then what? Like, what kinds of achievements will these students make? What kinds of world will we live in after that? It's like the ultimate disruption. And I think we don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be awesome.
That is great. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.